Grand Rising family, welcome. How's everyone doing? It's so good to see everybody. This is Tuesday. It is August the 4th, 2026. And as you all know, we are in a very special season. We are in the season of the Lions Gate portal opening. As you recall, the Lions Gate opened on July 28th and it will extend until August the 12th when it will close. And the energy from this portal opening will be at its peak, around August the 8th. So around this time, we know that Sirius lines up with Orion's belt, Earth, and the Sun. Another way to say is a Sun in Leo lines up or lines with all of the stars, including Sirius and or the Orion's belt and some of the other stars as well. And as you all know, if you are from an indigenous culture, many people say that we came from Sirius B. So this is why this is a high vibrational time, a high manifestation sign for the human population or the human race, and especially from those that came from Sirius B. So while these stars are lining up with each other, it's a wonderful time to speak to your ancestors, to light candles, to do whatever rituals, sing, um, and dance and hold in your mind and energy the things you desire to bring forth into your reality, and it will speed up quickly around this time. Everybody knows this because they studied indigenous culture. Even the so-called elite know this, so they stage certain things during the Lionsgate portal opening. So while all of these stars are in alignment, again, the portal opens and powerful energy comes through that you're supposed to harness. And during this time, anything that has held you back, you will come bursting through the gate, roaring like a lion, declaring your victory. This is why the FBI on August the 8th, 2022, staged a raid of President Trump's home looking for some documents stating that he was participating in some type of unlawful activity. They knew that the Lionsgate portal was opening. They hope that they can harness that energy for the bad. But I even declared during 2022, August 8th, when that happened, that nothing's going to happen to President Trump. He's going to burst through that gate, roaring like a lion, declaring his victory. And that's exactly what happened. He was victorious. So you too will be victorious during this time. You can write 8 things down that maybe have held you back or 8 issues you have. And then I want you to, as you write them down, then think about how that time period is over, tear it up, burn it, whatever you have to do to release that energy and throw it out, okay? Because that energy is out. And now you're coming in with new energy, like I said, roaring like a lion. So after you got rid of those 8 or whatever things that you're trying to get rid of, if it's smoking, drinking, maybe just some activities that you don't like so much, write it down and get it out of your space. Light candles, burn whatever incense or whatever it is that you burn, sage, to get that energy out of your environment, out of your home, out of your car, whatever. And then list the things that you desire to bring into your reality and chant, sing, whatever you do, talk to your ancestors. I mean, dance to high vibrational music. And as you're dancing, you are harnessing the energy of the portal that it has opened and all the stars that have aligned with one another and of your ancestors. Now, many people from different cultures have studied these practices because a lot of them have studied indigenous people so they can learn how to manifest, how to bring things into their reality, because most human beings came from the indigenous people or the original people, the people from the sun, the people from Sirius B. So since they know that part of their genetics came from us, they study us so they can learn how to either live a certain way, or even sometimes they'll change that energy and do some other type of things in there so they can learn how to manipulate the energy to enslave indigenous people, because you have some very sick people in the world. But again, you have human and man, and then you have mankind, or a kind of man that was drafted from the indigenous people and mixed with other DNA, other extraterrestrial DNA, other animal DNA, or whatever. And this is why when that gentleman so-called landed on the moon, he said this is a giant step for man and this is a step for mankind, but a step for man, but a giant step for mankind, because landing on the moon, so-called landing on the moon, or discovering another planet, is just a step for indigenous people or people from the sun, because that's nothing. We've been doing that forever. But it's a huge, giant step for the kind of mankind, those that were grafted from the indigenous people. So this is a high manifestational time, family. I like I said, 8-8 is very, very powerful. Now, I know this is the eighth month in the Gregorial calendar. The another calendar made the eighth month may be in October, right? Oct is 8, Octo is 8. However, since this reality deals with the Gregorian calendar, you can actually do these rituals here and again in October. Oct means 8. That's the Julian calendar, October, I've been told. So it doesn't matter how you do it. 8 is a high vibrational number. While we're in this their Lionsgate portal, we're going to harness that energy. 8 is not only a high vibrational number because it's the eighth month, but 8 is a number that resonates with prosperity. 8 is a number that resonates with wealth and abundance. Therefore, you can bring this into your reality even stronger or faster during this eighth month. So come on in. We have almost 200 people in the chat. Hit that like button. We're going to get started in just 1 minute, because I just came upon some information that we already knew, but God, my God, when you see it with your eyes, it's very telling and disheartening about how foreign nationals have come over here and trafficked drugs, people, children, harvested our organs, and did all type of nefarious things in the so-called Black community. It's egregious what they've done to us and what they've been doing to us. They all got to go. Come on in, check in the room. When I tell you I got upset, I burnt my beans, just forgetting the beans were on the stove, but I was able to salvage them. Come on in, family. We'll get to it in just a minute. Grand Rising. Shining wisdom's light, teaching soul tribe. Thank you for the gifts. 8 is infinity. Absolutely. Hey, soul tribe. A kind of man grafted by Yahweh. You have beings that were a kind of man grafted by Yahweh, the God of the Bible, who is an extraterrestrial, who is most likely Enlil. In fact, he is Enlil. The Elohim, the Nephilim that came to the planet, grafted out genetics or genes from the indigenous people and created another being. We all know. Hello, love. Greetings. Through her channel, knowledge flows, breaking chains that. This is my jam, y'all. Teaching past to abundance and wealth, guiding others to freedom. Soul tribe rising, hear her call. Let's get right into the news, family. I can play that in the background softly, and then I'll play it for you towards the end of the podcast. But I want to get right into this because I have company coming. It's not the company like family, but the other day I got stung by a wasp. And what I discovered when the contractor I hired my family to do business for me, but they were cutting the grass and noticed that there was a hornet's nest or a wasp nest, I don't know, about that big, that was under the shrubs. So I had to, not since the gentleman told me that while he was cutting the grass, I was like, no wonder, I don't usually see them. But when I got stung, I realized that they must be around somewhere. I never seen the nest that big, and there were eggs filled in each hole in that nest. So I had to call pest control and contract with another company, pest control company. Some of you out there need to start pest control companies, because all of the companies, they're making their money for their people, their bloodline. But I contracted them and they're coming out today, so we might get interrupted. I'm grateful that they'll be here, and they were very affordable. So they're going to treat all of the shrubs, and you have shrubs. I have flowers around my home, and they're going to spray all around the fence, all around outside of the home, and even inject things in the ground, because although I want to see hornets and wasps live, not at my expense, right? And I have grandchildren, so we had to make sure we did that. And they're going to come sometime today between now 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 5. So I'm going to get right into the news. Um, oh, it's Obama's birthday today. So let me tell you something, family. Before I get into this, excuse me, I went to the farmers market today, and then I went to the fresh market. And I'm excited because I bought a loaf of bread. I'm cutting it, I'm slicing it, and slicing it right now. And the way I was told to preserve this, because it has no preservatives in it, is to cut it and then put it in the freezer. So that's what I'm doing right now while I speak to you. If you all know people that can bake, ask them. Excuse me, let me take off this camera right quick. Sorry, let me check my phone. Ask them to start baking again. Baking fresh bread with no preservatives, no additives, so that you and your family can eat well. And this is what I'm trying to do: prepare my grandchildren, because I'm leaving a legacy for them. And my desire, my legacy is for them to be people of integrity who are healthy, wealthy, and wise. So what I do is I live before them that way. I'm a woman of integrity. I'm an honest person. However I live during the daytime is how I live at night. And what I desire for them again is to be healthy, wealthy, and wise. So I eat healthily. And my grandson has taken on the desire to what he called to grow food. So he's growing vegetables in the homemade garden that he created outside. He's 8 years old. This is what I love about homeschooling, is now they can use their energy and their time to do what they enjoy. This might be, no, that's Kentucky. Hold on, family. I don't want to miss the pest control. Well, that wasn't pest control. So now I have these nice slices of bread that I'm going to put in a freezer bag and freeze it. And they said you could just take it out the freezer bag, put it in the oven or in a toaster, and you have fresh bread that you can serve each day. He said take it right out of the freezer and serve it. So I'm gonna try that, since I haven't learned how to bake bread, and I should have, because my grandmother baked it. But anyway, my grandchildren are healthy. They eat healthily. They're growing their own foods. I bought them a juicer. They juice their foods. I teach them about wealth and values around wealth. I wrote a book just for them, to leave a legacy behind for them, that I'm going to share with the Soul Tribe. I'm reading the final edits today, and I'm doing my best to get that book published for in August, the 8th month, to teach wealth, to teach about wealth, values around wealth, and to teach how to have family governance meetings so that you can actually instruct your family on how to accumulate wealth and how to preserve wealth. So let me put some gloves on right quick. So anyway, I'm teaching my family, my grandchildren, again, values around living a life full of integrity, how to be healthy, wealthy, and I'm sharing my wisdom with them. And so what I did is, when I was young, I looked into my future and I decided how I wanted to live my life. Hey, baby. And I began with the end in mind. And I said, I knew what I wanted my family to look like. And I just, every day, even when I was a child, I made sure when I got up each rising, every thought I had, every activity I involved myself in, every behavior, everything had to align with the vision that I had for myself. And I still do that. And so as such, now I have grandchildren who do the same thing. Amin Rise, 8, are you in the 5th or 6th grade? Sixth grade. He's classified as a genius. He's in the horticulture, and he's into growing his own food and juicing his own food. And he's great at math. He loves to study geography. Um, my granddaughter makes her own. She makes clothes with needle and thread, and now she's learning to use a sewing machine. She makes jewelry. She knows how to do hair, because this is the legacy I will preserve. Whatever the values that I have, I'm passing down to my future generations. Thank you, baby. You want to look at good day? They're saying good day, y'all. So yes, put in the comment section freedom now. Hashtag freedom now. Okay, so now, family, you're going to St. George, Utah. Let me tell you what I've uncovered. We really have to start doing things for our bloodlines and for our posterity, no matter what ethnicity, race, or nationality you are. But let me tell you, especially if you are indigenous and classify as Black, because everybody else, uh, they are they are doing certain things to make sure that their bloodline is correct, even if it means they're living off the estate of indigenous people, the energy of the indigenous people, the wealth of the indigenous people. They couldn't care less. They don't give a darn. I'm telling you what I know. It's sad. It's a little frustrating. But what I most recently uncovered was there are lots of foreign nationals that are here that are both legal and illegal, that are trafficking drugs and children and harvesting organs, doing all type of things in the so-called Black community. Now they may be doing it somewhere else, but it's horrible in the so-called Black community. And what made me start looking at this was when Marco Rubio a few months ago did a press conference. He said we have a migratory issue here in America and we must remedy this issue we have. Once he made that statement, he said, listen, I'm a son of immigrant parents, and I know that there have been a lot of people that come from abroad here to America seeking a better opportunity. But what we have here is a problem with people flooding our borders, flooding our airways, doing whatever they can to come into America, not necessarily seeking better opportunities for themselves alone, but also bringing issues that is causing problems for the American people. Turn that off. Excuse me. So Marco Rubio said, we have a problem here where you have a lot of people coming from different countries that are taking the jobs, that are establishing businesses that are not helping the American people. So he said, we got to do something about this problem. And when he said that, there was an East Indian woman from the continent of Asia that said, wait a minute, Indians have contracts with the United States government. And when you say you have to end this migratory issue, you're talking about H-1B visas, and we have contributed to the economy in America. And so Marco Rubio said, yes, and so has my family as being a son of immigrant parents. However, there's a problem with people coming in here that's seeking so many opportunities and doing so well. The American people are struggling. So I thought, there's something they want me to know about this. Either the people in power want me to know something about why this Indian woman was at that conference, or the ancestors are telling me to wake up. Because when she said we have a contract with the American government, that did something to me. That woke something in me, unlocked something in me that caused me to research. I was like, why would East Indians have a contract with the United States government? And then all I could think about is how they're doing the best here in America. Now, if you were East Indian and you're a benevolent person, we're not speaking about you. Although you do need to be going back home to take care of your own country to make India great again, especially when you consider all the things that's going on in East India that you and I both know about in terms of the economy, in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the sewage problems, and in terms of a lot of things going on in India. People need to be there making their country great again. But instead, what we see is a lot of them coming here. And when Marco Rubio was talking and that woman waved her hand and said, wait, we got a contract with America. I said, wait a minute. East Indians, so-called Indian Americans, they're at the top of the social economic strata. They're making at least on average $100,000 a year. And then the Filipino Americans make $83,000 per year. And then the Taiwanese Americans make $82,500 a year. And then the Sri Lankan Americans make at least $74,000 a year. I'm talking about on average. And then the Japanese Americans bring home 72.3, and then the Malaysian Americans 70,300. The Chinese are bringing on average 69,100. Pakistani Americans, which they're Pakistani nationals, not Americans, they're bringing in 66,200. And then so-called white Americans, European Americans, more correctly put, are bringing home about 5,900. No wonder why they're angry, because look at all the people living better than them, above them, when they were the only ones living better than the so-called Black indigenous people here. Then you have the Korean Americans making 5,200 a year, and then you have the Indonesian Americans bringing an average 5,000. I'm sorry, Indonesian make 57,500. The average American making 56,200. Average American. Taiwanese, the Thai people making 55,000. Bangladeshi making 50. Nepali Americans making 43,500. Hispanic Latino Americans bringing home on average 43,000. And then way at the bottom is the African American, the so-called Black, autogenous, indigenous, Negro, Niji here in America at the bottom at $35,000 on average per household. Why is it that everybody else is doing so well? Why is it that Black Americans, the indigenous people who were the prisoners of war, are at the bottom? It's because a lot of people here were contracted with United States Incorporated and allowed to come here on various types of visas, both legally and illegally, while they were accessing our states, while they were giving contracts, while they were allowed to have government benefits. And who's paying the cost? Except for the indigenous original Americans here and some United States citizens that are not really American. They may be called American, but they're not American. They're from Europe. And you are starting to see more and more people classified as white that's look, hey, I'm Scottish, especially once they had the World Cup or whatever they had over here. You had a lot of people, there's all over YouTube saying, hey, I'm Scottish. Hey, I'm British. Hey, I'm this. My bloodline is this, that, and the third. They realize that they're not really from America. They're from Europe. The East Indians are from Asia. The Chinese and Japanese are from Asia. Everybody on this list is from somewhere else other than the Black Americans classified as Black, but really the autogenous original American here. Prisoners of war who were in prison allegedly by the Moors that came from Spain and were kicked out of Europe in 1492. Now we know that they ruled Europe from 711 to 1492. As soon as they got kicked out, they came here and enslaved the African American, which they call us African American, the indigenous people here, but they brought the European slaves with them and they put them in certain colonies that they established, gave them jobs, gave them positions, and put them above the indigenous people here. I don't even blame the Europeans that they brought here, because these Europeans they brought here were enslaved, they were mutilated, they were mistreated. The women were great. The Moors, allegedly the so-called dirty Moors, who aren't even American and they're not indigenous, their bloodline comes from another planet, brought them here to colonize and enslave us. And they did all type of things with their genetics and manipulated their genetics. And some of them were homegrown in laboratories that they brought over here. So it can't really be angry with them. And they brought them from prisons. They brought them from jail. They brought them from all over the place to bring them to America, just like the United States Incorporated is doing, allowing foreign nationals to come from all over the place here to enslave and live off the energy in the estate of The original American. Now, I'm going to speak to the Americans right now, the indigenous Nijis right now. Everybody else, please just listen. I'm speaking to the people classified as Black. What I need for us to do is I need for us to stand up in our integrity and our kingship and Godship and recognize who we are as the God beings that sprung from the soil here. Everything started in America. America is Egypt. America is Babylon. America is Jerusalem. America is Morocco. America is everything. Even the Garden of Eden started here in Florida. You can even look that up. Gopher, the gopher that Noah's Ark was built upon or from, is only grown here in Florida. You need to stand up and recognize the gods that you are and know that everybody else came from you. They were grafted from your genetics so that you can stand up and walk in the honor and integrity of your ancestors. And let people know that they, if they're going to be here on your land, must also walk in honor and integrity and treat you like the gods that you are. And if they cannot do that, then you and I need to be doing what we need to do to operate at the local level to get people up out of here. And we need to buy up the block, buy up the land, because all these people that's been coming here, Europeans included, have bought up our mounds that they call country clubs. They bought up our burial grounds that they call other places. They bought up our cathedrals and our temples that they now call colleges and courthouses. They bought up everything in order to establish themselves and our land on our indigenous people's grounds. So we got to start standing up in integrity and in honor. And when the RV happens, we need to be making sure we get in these neighborhoods and we buy up the block back from these people who have bought it from us or stole it from us. And we need to start schools and educate our own children. We need to clean up the drugs that's in the communities. I'm going to get on that in a minute. We need to take care of our own people because their hospitals are killing our people. We need to work at the local levels and do whatever we can to reestablish ourselves as the kings and queens and gods that we are, and accumulate wealth that we can pass down to our posterity. You don't even have to wait until the RV happens, the revaluation of currencies or the global currency reset or whatever happens. You need to be accumulating wealth now. You need to be operating in integrity now, because let me tell you something, these people don't care about us. Because if they did, they would have been doing whatever they could the whole time they've been here to support the indigenous people upon which they're living on or off which they're living. Okay, when I say these people don't care, they don't care. And I'm not talking about the people on the peripheral who have supported indigenous people or who have walked in integrity and honor. I'm talking about the massive amount of people that came here to the Americas to live off of our energy and to live off of our estate and to live off of our credits and to live off our social security numbers that's attached to central bank systems where our wealth is stored. I'm so upset today because I live in Florida and I live in the Jacksonville area. So I know people that are working for Lyft and that other thing where they drive for people. I can't think of the name of it. What's the other name for Lyft? Where they go and they drive people around, people that need rides. Uber. And what these people are telling me is that the Black community in Jacksonville, Florida, a great majority of them on the north side are walking around like zombies. They're walking around out of their minds because they have been on drugs for generations. Oh, it was crack, it was heroin, it was the other cocaine. Now it's flocka, which I never heard of in my life, also known as flock. And it's fentanyl. So when these Uber drivers and Lyft drivers, because some of them are, I know some of these young people that are working in this area were telling me Black folks are walking around like zombies and the women are prostituting their bodies and people are selling their children for drugs. I asked myself, where are all these drugs coming from and why is this My father was addicted to drugs. His generation was addicted to heroin, and the generation before that was addicted to something else. What is going on with these drugs being flooded into the Black community? Where are the drugs coming from? Who is laundering the drugs? I already reported how some of the people from these Arab nations that owned gas stations and convenience stores were running drugs through their shell corporations called convenience stores and gas stations. This is why you see police officers always lined up there. Every major city, Cleveland when I lived there, Louisville, Kentucky when I lived there, Jacksonville, Florida, they all have police officers that are friendly with the Arab community that owns these gas stations and convenience stores. And I didn't understand what was going on, but it wasn't my business. And, but I noticed a lot of drug activity going on there, and I would try to stay away from that area. But during 2020, during the global shutdown, I noticed that there were key stores, convenience stores, and mom and pop stores that were owned by Arabs and other nationals and East Indians that were open during the pandemic. And I asked one brother who was working in one of those stores, why are these stores allowed to stay open in 2020 and everybody else is closed? That's when I had an awakening. He said, because they're running money laundering through here. They're running drugs through here. They're flooding our community, the Black communities, with their drugs. So the East Indians who have contracts with them, I forgot about that comment until I heard Marco Rubio say that a couple months ago. They have contracts with the United States Incorporated. They get grants. They get money to fund their businesses. They're shell corporations in our community where they run drugs and all type of other things, automatic weapon parts. So that was in 2020. I was like, oh my gosh, that's interesting. But when Marco Rubio said that at a conference the other day, we have a migratory issue. And that East Indian woman said, hey, we have a contract with the United States Incorporated. If you attack migrants and immigrants, then your economy will essentially be impacted. And he said, well, we'll have to deal with that. And it's going to be uncomfortable for a while we go through these issues, but we have to mitigate this problem. So I asked myself, what problem? And I started doing some research. A lot of East Indians are here on H-1B visas. Now, I reported not long ago that 90,000 H-1B visas that a lot of East Indians decide to get to come over here to work or create businesses. 90,000 per year new H-1B visas are processed. That's just that person, the persons. And then 90,000 in addition to that would be their spouses, because not only do they come here on H-1B visas, but then you also recruit their spouses and you give them an H-1B visa. So that's 180,000 new H-1B visas processed here in America per year. In addition, you have 400,000 H-1B visas renewed each year. Currently, there's an estimated 500,000 to 730,000 total active H-1B visa holders here in the United States, with Indian nationals making up over 70% of those. That's 283,000 to 500,000 individuals of the total group. 500,000 or more are from East India, and the rest of the 30% foreign nationals are here on H-1B visas. What kind of jobs do they take? They take jobs in the hospitals. And if you remember, Chief Mack and I did a show a few months ago that said that millions of fake medical degrees were sold here from India. Millions of fake medical degrees. That means you have a whole lot of people operating and practicing medicine here in America on fake medical degrees. Millions of fake medical degrees, million of fake nurses licensed, not just sold to Indians, but other people as well that are foreign national. But let's stay there with the foreign nationals from India practicing medicine here. They come here on H-1B visas to practice medicine. But let's look at what else they're known for practicing. They take 4 major white collar jobs. If you can't remember what those are, just remember FEMA: finance, engineering, medicine, architecture. Finance is dealing with your money. Working at the banks. Engineering, that's dealing with the infrastructure here in America. Medicine, that's dealing with the health. You wonder why so many misdiagnoses are occurring here in America? Well, maybe it's because a lot of people are practicing medicine with illegal, unlawful, fake medical degrees. And then the architecture also deal with the homes and renting, constructing a rental property, constructing houses. So that's just the top 4: finance, engineer, medicine, architect. Then we uncovered how there's even a lot of them taking over the blue collar jobs, the factory jobs, Amazon, what FedEx. A lot of people are here on H-1B visas taking those jobs so that your children, whether you're United States citizen that's here legally or not, or you're an American national here that sprung from the soil, your ancestors sprung from the soil, you wonder why your children or your mom and dad or your aunts, uncles, nephews, cousins, friends, husbands, wives can't get a job? Because they've taken the jobs in the top white collar positions and in the blue collar positions. And it's just not just H-1B visas. It's also the DACA people, the people that are here, what they call deferred action for childhood arrivals, children that came to the Americas to take jobs, study here in America. And then when they come of age, they take jobs and they go on into law and they go into law enforcement. Look at how many illegal and legal immigrants and migrants are now police officers. You wonder why Black people get beat upside the head and Black men get unalive? Because the foreign nationals that are here, including the Europeans that are here that didn't care nothing about us, are not a part of our bloodline. They were contracted to do those jobs. Immigrants are now taking over police enforcement jobs. But the good news is that a lot of the police departments all across America are downsizing. The people are taking early retirement. They're being fired. They're being arrested even. Many of them work for MS-13 gang members. You know, they'll tell you the MS-13 gang members came from Mexico. All of them didn't. A lot of them were Arabs, Indian, other South American, Central American, other nationals that came through the Mexican border into America and took those jobs as policy enforcers, et cetera, et cetera. So DACA, deferred action for childhood arrivals, where they allowed their children to come here. And this was not a legal permanent pathway to residency. They knew this. They signed on the dotted line, but they thought they'd never be discovered. They thought they'd never be arrested. They thought they'd never be taken back to their countries. They thought they would forever live off the people here, the energy here, and exploit the wealth here. So now you have people yelling and upset, protesting against Marco Rubio, protesting against President Donald Trump. But what they don't understand or overstand or understand, I don't care how you spin the word, is that this is the time for the indigenous people to take back their land. We don't want reparations. We demand and command restoration, and the ancestors that have returned are commanding the same. So what I'm saying to you, indigenous people, is wake up. Get off the drugs. Get off the breast of the government. You don't need the titty of the government to sustain you. You know how to deal with the land. They'll tell you, if we all go back to our countries, y'all won't know how to grow the foods. That's the same thing they said in South Africa and in Zimbabwe. The economy is going to fail if the Europeans and the foreign nationals don't grow the land. Are you kidding me? We taught people how to grow land, how to grow food from the land, spring from the soil. We sprung from the soil, therefore we know how to work the soil. Get back to the land. Get your grandmother out of the nursing homes. They're collapsing. Foreign nationals that were recruited to come here to take care of your elders are now being deported, and some of them are self-deporting. Go get grandma and grandpa out of the nursing home. Bring them home so they can now bake the bread for us to eat in the bakery. so they can pass down information and knowledge and wisdom to the younger generations. But let's get back to the Uber drivers and Lyft drivers with whom I was speaking. They were telling me about Flocka and how Flocka, which is some drug that came out around 2015 to 15s, it was then classified as a new drug, is taking over the north part of Jacksonville and many major cities in America. And guess where this drug is being laundered? Through motels. Don't believe me? Look it up. I'll just give you a few articles. Oh yes, I'm disturbed that this has been allowed to happen. Flocka, also known as Flock, sales at Northside Motel targeted in months-long undercover drug operation. So I was like, Northside, that's where a lot of the indigenous people, Black people live. I would say, why would they say Northside Motel? I want to know what is the name of the Northside Motel and who owns it. Because when the Uber drivers told me that a lot of Black Americans are strung out on Flocka, and a lot of the hotels and motels on the north side of Jacksonville and other major cities in America, when these hotels are running drugs through them, I already knew who owned the motels. Because I reported months ago that 50 to 80% of the motels are owned by East Indians. 80% of the convenience stores and gas stations are owned by East Indians. Now the motel industry has gone to hell. They're filthy, they're dirty, and they're drug ridden, and a lot of drug crack addicts and heroin addicts and Flocka addicts live there. Because just like that woman said when she was speaking at Marco Rubio's conference, we have a contract through our H-1B visas and other visas here with the United States government. You can't get rid of us. Just like she stood in her boldness and her power saying that, now I see she was telling on herself. The sheriff office said the work isn't finished cleaning up problems at the property on Gulf Fair Boulevard. If you're from here, you know about Gulf Fair Boulevard. I'm new to Jackson, about 5 years. But I've come to know Gulf Fair, Moncrief, those are indigenous names, but those areas, drug ridden. But they'll say, when you look on YouTube videos and you read articles, oh, the Black community is so bad, it's full of crime, it's so full of drugs, don't go there, don't live there, it's horrible, the economy is bad there, the people are horrible. Why are they? Because people were contracted and allowed to come here to put drugs, guns, and violence in our communities. We need to take our communities back. And the same ones of you and me that orchestrated protests to speak against unalignment of police, I'm trying to figure out where all these Black Greek fraternities and all these church leaders are that was speaking against the unalignment of Black men. Where are you now when you know who the drug dealers are? Why aren't you protesting in front of the drug houses? Why aren't you commanding and demanding that they stop selling drugs to your aunts, your uncles, your sisters, your brothers, your cousins, your nephews, your nieces, and your grandparents, and your friends, and your tribe members? Why aren't we standing up and protesting against these people that we know is in our community, not just the foreign nationals, but even the people classified as Black? If they're selling drugs to your people, you ought to be angry and indignant and do something about it. But no, it's interesting. You can stand up against somebody you think is white, but you won't even stand up against the foreign nationals and the people that even look like you in your community, destroying your people and your bloodline. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office has announced the results of a month-long undercover operation into crime at and around a motel on Jacksonville North Side. Metro Inn and Suites located on Gulf Fair Boulevard in Brentwood has been subject to repeated calls for service over the years related to drug activity, violence, and thefts, according to police. They were contracted to come over here and launder drugs to my community. 11 arrests were announced Tuesday, with additional arrests anticipated as a result of an operation that began in January 2026. And they want me to stand in unity with them to allow these foreign nationals who are committing crimes against my people and anybody else's people here in this country. No, you all got to go. The sheriff's office said undercover detectives brought the drug flocka from municipal people or multiple people selling out of the Metro Inn and at the nearby Chevron gas station. These arrests have disrupted drug activity at this property, this problem property, but our work is not finished. We remain committed to holding drug dealers accountable and making our neighbors safe again, the sheriff's office said. Okay, yes, hold the drug dealers accountable and make sure you start at the top. We know the United States government has allowed these drugs to come in. You know how we know that? Because as I reported the other day, TSA at the airports, they are now being replaced by private security. You know why they're being replaced by private security? Because it was discovered by the Trump administration that TSA, who was supposed to be protecting the airports and making sure we were all safe and making sure there were no drugs and children and guns laundered there, guess what? They flagged billions of dollars cash last year, 2025, billions. They flagged it, but they didn't confiscate it. Watch my video that I did on that, how TSA is being replaced by private security. They flagged billions of dollars of cash, but they didn't confiscate it. You know why? Because it's not their job to confiscate it. They only flagged it. They didn't confiscate billions of dollars of cash that came through airports last year. They reported it to local officials, but the money was still allowed to go to different countries. Isn't that something? Because if you or I, whether you're a United States citizen or you're a national American from this country, if you even have $10,000 or more, you get flagged and confiscated. Your money gets confiscated and you get arrested. And you might even have your life snuffed out like Dr. Sebi. But if a foreign national launders money or the United States Incorporated launders money, it's okay. Look it up. Billions of dollars was flagged by TSA last year. You got to look at that report I did because I went into detail about how this has been allowed to happen. Federal data and congressional hearings revealed that the TSA flagged approximately $692 million in cash. That's just leaving Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport alone. Airport and passenger luggage. This volume dramatically outpaced outflows at larger U.S. hubs, promoting or prompting federal probes into potential money laundering. They know it ain't potential my behind, my potential my eyeball. It ain't no potential. You know it was money laundering. And interestingly enough, it was leaving Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport. Isn't there a very big foreign national community in Minneapolis? Didn't they get discovered for laundering billions of dollars? You know, what I discovered from this foreign national group that resides in Minneapolis, I need you to excuse me. Go into your room. Close your door. What I discovered is that actually I didn't have to discover. I was taught this by Asir the Duke of Tears, who came on my show. I was rewatching a video he and I did last year, and he was saying he had heard allegedly a lot of these foreign nationals that are in Minneapolis from Somalia are part of a brotherhood that were allowed to come here. And Ilhan Omar allegedly is part of that brotherhood as well. Minneapolis and the surrounding Twin Cities area are home to about 84,000 residents of Somali descent, forming the largest Somali diaspora population in the United States. Most numbers or members of this community they call American citizens. They're not American citizens. You can't be American and a citizen. You're either American, which means you're sovereign and your ancestors sprung from the soil, or you're a citizen, meaning you're United States property or chattel property that are afforded privileges by the United States Incorporated. But they like to play games and semantics. You know, they try to trick us. They call them American citizens or naturalized residents who first arrived as refugees fleeing civil war in the 1990s. But when you dig into who was laundering that money at the airport, it was that foreign national group. And a lot of that money went to Somalia. So those that saying they can't go back, well, where are the billions of dollars that was laundered from here to Somalia? Because show didn't use it to take care of these daycares they said they had here. Where are the hundreds of millions and billions of dollars that went to Somalia? Now you can go and make your country great again. All these people that's here that's either trying to tether themselves to us now because they don't want to leave, tether themselves to so-called Black Americans. Oh, we're party. No, we're cutting the cords, because when we told everybody to stand with us, a lot of people, brown, European, otherwise, I don't care if they were from the Caribbean, I don't care if they were from the African continent, I don't care if they were from Asia, they made sure that they separated themselves from so-called Black people. And they even tell you they were told, they were trained to stay away from the Black community, stay away from Black people. They are lazy. They don't take advantage of the opportunities in America. They need to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. Stay away from them, but put your businesses in their community and get government contracts and government grants and government money and a fake Social Security number that's really attached to their estate, and make yourself rich and send that money back to your country and make it great while you pretend like you're struggling here in America. Because remember, they all came here with only $5 and a dream. Old childhood saying comes to me: liar, liar, pants on fire. People classified as Black, African American, Negro, colored, and otherwise, wake up. You're the indigenous gods that sprung from this soil. Go and get your relatives, wash them up, clean them off, bring them home, and establish your estate and your empire. Because everybody else got to go. They can all go back home and make their countries great again. Why don't people want to go back home to their own homelands? We didn't invite them here. But they came here and they operated in such arrogance and such entitlement. And they want to be in close proximity to whiteness, and even their status is white. Don't you dare call them Black. I don't blame them. I wouldn't call myself Black either. Black is a status in law that means you have no lawful standing. It means you're a slave. You're worse than a slave. In fact, they consider you dead. That's why the judges wear black. They're conducting a funeral in the courtroom for their United States citizens and for the indigenous American here. And for all of you that's tired of hearing it, I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face. American, according to the 1828 Webster definition, is the copper-colored races discovered by Europeans, but now applied to Europeans. It can be applied to a European all day long. That doesn't make Europeans Americans. They are United States citizens. They are not lawful United States American nationals. They are legal citizens. And any of Europeans that remain here, or anybody else, and they mammy, pappy, grandpappy, grandmammy, children, or otherwise, that be here have to operate now in integrity. Because we found out why so many people were allowed to come here. They're living off our estates. They're living off our wealth. They're living off our lands. They're gating themselves and locking themselves in certain communities that were indigenous grounds. They're calling the country clubs and the golf places their protected country clubs for their friends and their peers, when that is the place where our ancestors and elders used to go to make certain laws and decisions. Everybody got to go, either willingly or unwillingly. And if anybody's allowed to remain, they have to operate in integrity. And you need to make sure they do, whether you consider yourself a citizen or an American. You need to make sure these people respect you, because they're here operating on our land, our ancestors' land. And I don't want to hear these dissertations about the land belongs to everybody. No, nobody owns the land. Even indigenous people, I get it, said we don't own the land own us, but we sprung from the soil. Therefore, we are the original stewards and managers of the soil here in America. And guess what? Donald Trump knows that. Who do you think he's working for? He's restoring the old empire. That's why you saw Morocco invading Spain, because all of this is coded messages for the Moroccans, Amoricans, the Moors. Morocco started here. They're waking up and they're taking back over their land. Now, I am not one that believes in going and conquering people's stuff, but even the Spaniards know that they have Moorish blood. All coded messages. So let's get back to this Flocka situation that I told you about that's really disturbing me. And all these other drugs. Thank you. Come on in the room, family. Freedom Now in the comment section. Hashtag Freedom Now. I love y'all. I love my country too. They do it heavy in New York. They're doing it heavy all over the place. Texas just increased the penalty on weed possession. Wow. Freedom Now in the comment section, family. I agree. The so-called blacks have always been the science experiment they needed and wanted. It's egregious. It's horrible. Thank you for the gift. It's like everybody was allowed here to try to replace us, but you cannot. Because the time for all that enslavement is over. Yeah, they live deliciously off of our backs. And they know it. The contracts are over. Thank you. It's all done with the contracts. But they had the contracts. I don't see homeless East Indians on the street. It's wild and crazy. The United States was never for the indigenous. It was originally for the indigenous, but other people took it over, and the Moors from Spain and Europe, and anybody that colluded with them, like the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, and some of the fake oohays that pretend to be us, calling themselves God's people, lying about that place over in Pakistani region belonging to them. They all were colluding against us. We know there are some good people here that don't feel that way, that haven't been a part of that, but we know a lot of people have. So when I looked at who owns that hotel, Metro Inn and Suites, because it was interesting how they just said a Northside motel, but they wouldn't tell you who owned it, right? They don't want to tell on themselves. Metro Inn and Suites in Jacksonville, Florida, located at 1055 Gulf Fair, was previously registered under the corporate entity Metro Inn and Suites LLC, which listed Pankaj Brahmabat as president and Shaibala Brahmabat as vice president. However, state record shows this company filed for voluntary dissolution April 2023. However, those are the original owners. So I said, that name looks kind of East Indian to me, where this Flocka is flooding and where their mass arrests occurred recently. And so I said, well, I don't want to assume, although I know that some say 50 to 80% of the motels owned in America are owned by East Indians, mostly who are related to the Patel family. I didn't want to just assume that these were East Indians. So I said, well, let me see what that name is. It could be anything else. So I asked, is that an Indian name? And I don't know, AI could be making a mistake, but they said, yes, Pankaj Brahmabat, often spelled or misspelled as Ankaj, is a traditional Indian name. Pankaj is a common Hindu given name meaning lotus. And Brahmabat is an Indian surname primarily found in Gujarat and among the Brahmin community. Did not I tell people that most of the East Indians here are from the Brahmin community? Do you not know who the Brahmin community is? They're at the top of the social economic strata in India. You know, India has a caste system just like America. We call it class system. They call it caste system. The Brahmins are at the top. The untouchables, the real dark Indians, they don't have any dealings with them. That's why you don't see a lot of them here They're hidden away, the dark ones that look like the originals, but the ones that have lightened themselves up by mixing with Europeans and their colonizer, and that lighten their skin up with bleach and marry into European families, the Brahmins are allowed to come here. When they lie to you and say they came here on $5 in a dream, they're lying. They come here either on H-1B visas, or they come here because they sent their children here on deferred action for childhood arrivals, and they act like they don't understand that deferred action means that you won't be deported right away. It was deferred, it was put off. But the same government, the same entities, the same what do they call it? USCIS, the same immigration officers that use their discretion to say you can stay here for a long time and that your deportment was deferred are the same ones that's using their discretion to say your time is up because their contracts are up. This isn't just about the East Indians, but I'm telling you that a lot of them are flooding our communities with drugs. Remember how they said we had a drug crisis here in America? Well, when it was just us on drugs, it was us being drug addicts and needing to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, and our children are super predators, and it's 3 strikes rule, you're out. You know, the rules that some people classify as black, you know, those ones that y'all voted for. Kamala Harris, her, and Joseph Robinette Biden that came up with this 3 strikes law in the Clintons. If a black man or anybody classified as black committed 3 crimes, even if they were misdemeanors, you could go to prison for the rest of your life. You know, because you were selling weed that now they classified as legal. But when it was us doing it was illegal. When the indigenous people selling moonshine, it was illegal, and their children got taken away and they were arrested. You know, now their alcohol is now legal and weed is legal and all their buddies all running. Yeah, Kamala Harris, Biden, Clintons, and all these other people who were in politics were the ones that arrested our uncles and our fathers and our husbands for selling what's now legal, weed, and called our boys super predators. But they can allow Punjab and other Indians to come here and traffic and launder drugs. But when it was us laundering, or not even laundering, selling legal or illicit or licit narcotics or whatever you want to call it, or alcohol, it was a crime, and the people that were on it, they were criminals, super predators. Predators need to be locked up forever. But when it infiltrated into the affluent communities and into the so-called white communities, you know, the European citizens got hooked on it and their children, then all of a sudden it's a drug epidemic. Because you know what bothers me? I'm not one of those people that like to assume nobody likes me. I just don't. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. But I have a spiritual brother by the name of Alvin. He's a pastor. He told me once when I was talking about people, I said, I don't think everybody's bad. I honestly think most people, most human beings are good. I really honestly think that. And I said, I'll try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. He taught me early on, sometimes you got to give doubt the benefit. Because everybody, and he wasn't talking about an ethnicity, a nationality. He was like, everybody just don't care about you. Everybody don't have your best interest at heart. And what I'm seeing is that a lot of them don't. I looked up AI and I asked AI, is Flocka drug connected to Indian hotels? And of course they said there's no verified connection between the synthetic drug Flocka alpha PVP and specific Indian hotels. However, illicit laboratories in India and China are frequently cited by international law enforcement and researchers as major manufacturing hubs for producing and exporting synthetic cathinolines like Flocka. And we also know not just Flocka, it's also fentanyl. Additionally, Indian police departments such as in Bengaluru have occasionally investigated local hotels or debunked viral social media scares regarding misidentified zombie drugs, which sometimes draw erroneous online association with designer stimulants. You know, it's interesting. No verified connection between the synthetic drug Flocka and specific Indian hotels. Okay, However, illicit laboratories in India and China are frequently cited for international law enforcement and researchers as major manufacturing hubs. Who are they manufacturing it for? Where are they sending it to? Why is flocka so prevalent in the Black community if it didn't come from India and China? Don't play with us. This is why President Trump said we can't allow these rich millionaires and billionaires from China to come over here, drop off their children and give birth to their children on our soil and automatically be classified as birthright citizens because they don't have the best interest of the citizens or the Americans at heart. They've been found out. And they will try to pull on your heartstrings and they will tell you that you're racist or xenophobic if you say they all got to go. But they got to go home. They already have money. The East Indians that come over here, most of them are from the Brahmin class. You're already wealthy. Why are you here? Why are you making more money than average Americans? Why are you at the top of the pyramid if you aren't here to exploit the people here and exploit the energy and exploit the government and take money and credits from the government? Why has this been allowed? I already went over the pyramid. Black Americans way at the bottom. And you mean to tell me they're not here exploiting us? Oh, they're working with the United States Incorporated, but the United States Incorporated is now insolvent. There was a report that came out September 2025 by the United States Treasury Department that said the United States Incorporated is insolvent. They're broke. They can't pay their debts. On top of that, countries all over the world have stopped trading or buying up United States Treasury bonds. Not only have they stopped buying the Treasury bonds, they've dropped them, meaning they're no longer buying up United States Incorporated debt. And this is how the United States Incorporated was operating. They were taking money that they were making from everybody, all these nations, buying up the debt, buying up the Treasury bonds, and they were using it to recruit more foreign nationals and to do other things, as well as taxing us to the wazoo here, making all this money that they were paying to the British Crown and to their Communist Party buddies. All while living off the land and the wealth of the indigenous people here in America. Everybody was doing it. Everybody was colluding with the indigenous people in America. You want to know why? That black and white flag hangs flying in the wind that says POWMIA hangs at the federal buildings and the post offices now. And underneath that, it says, "You are not forgotten." Because Jacob Bay taught us that they were talking about the prisoners of war here in America. You are not forgotten. God is not forgotten. God is not forgotten. That's a whole song. Yeah, POWMIA flag. And people will argue out the wazoo. Oh, those about the prisoners of war from other nations. No, it's not about Black people. Because God forbid people classified as Black be considered prisoners of war. God forbid that we realize that we were imprisoned and exploited and mistreated. God forbid that we realize that we're the indigenous copper-colored races discovered here by the Europeans and that we are the original Americans. God forbid that we wake up and realize everybody's been eating off of us. God forbid that somebody is acknowledging us as the prisoners of war. God forbid. You know why so many people are angry that we've awakened? Because they've lived off of our estate for so long and they've been lied to as well. They've been told they just niggas. They don't care about themselves. They're just on drugs. They have babies. They live off welfare. They don't take advantage of the system here. They're slaves from Africa. But now we're dispelling all that. We're not from Africa. We're from these lands here in America. We weren't chattel slaves from Africa. Some of us might have been enchained and sent to Africa and then brought back here and misclassified as Africa. But the few remnant that did come from here, they're not the many. And we know that those ships that they draw out don't exist. Because if they existed, they should be somewhere, at least in their museums. You know, people that conquer love to exhibit what they conquered. Where are the ships? They don't exist. The only people that came here on ships are Europeans and what they call the Cabbage Patch children that were created in labs. They came by the hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands. That's why our whole world is flooded with Caucasian or Caucasoid looking people. A lot of them were created in labs. A lot of them were grafted out of the indigenous people's genetic codes. The story of Yaku is really based upon legend of the Anunnaki who grafted genes from original people, mixed the genetics with other DNA, animal DNA, Neanderthal DNA, and create a whole race of people, as well as the people they created in the Cabbage Patch labs and laboratories. We know about designer babies. If you were around in the 80s and 90s, they literally, elites, Hollywood people would create and choose how they wanted their children to be designed. They were created in labs. That's why the sun is killing off so many people, because a lot of them aren't from this planet. In fact, a lot of people that are not indigenous, they will tell you their grandmother and great-grandmother was adopted. Why were they adopted? Because they weren't human, some of them. This is why indigenous people don't have any Neanderthal DNA, but other people do. And some people were born with tails. But now that the indigenous people are waking up and we understand and know how science works, and we're saying we're not the slaves, we're not the 3/5 of a human. Other people might be 3/5 of a human, but it sure ain't us. And yet we still love everybody and take care of everybody and bring them in and welcome them in. And you know what's interesting? Even if our people marry out, we love and embrace them. But some of you will disinherit your own if they mix with indigenous blood. But I bet you won't feel that way now that you know that the indigenous copper color African American Negro person is the original. Now you're going to have a lot of people saying, marry me, marry me, marry me, marry me. Make love to me, hurry up and mix my blood so I can survive. And all these other people that were allowed to come over here, they're having an awakening too. All of the ones that say they better than us, even some of the people that's brown like us, we're better. No, we're not. Oh, we're not, y'all. We come from this island. We come from this continent. We come from over here. Unless they want a green card, then all of a sudden they're friendly. But I'm just saying, a lot of East Indians here are laundering drugs in our communities. There was so much information on that. All you got to do is Google it. But first, let's talk about the prisoner of war flag here. The POW-MIA flag is a black and white symbol honoring prisoners of war and those missing in action. Who is the most mistreated people on the planet? Who's the most disrespected, disregarded people on the planet? Who is at the bottom of the social economic strata all over the world? Although if people classified black in America put all their money together, stop spending it out all over in other communities, you will realize that you have a lot of spending power. That's why everybody's in your community. That's why some of these nail shops, restaurants, convenience stores, food marts, you know what they do? They'll go in the food desert area classified as black, an urban black community area, where's a food desert where we don't have food, fresh farms, you know. They'll say, I'm in a food desert. And then they get grants and free money from the government to establish their food mart where they sell a whole bunch of junk food and a whole bunch of processed food, cakes, candy, chips, and otherwise classified as food, and maybe a few canned items in there to further poison us in our community. And they might have a few pieces of meat that's, you know, real old, and bread that's almost molded or molded, because they don't give a darn about your bloodline. Everybody's out for themselves. That's what racism is. Racism is a race for resources. When you study economics and you're in the economic classes where a lot of us are not, they come straight out and tell you racism is about a race to resources. Everybody's here racing to the resources of the indigenous people classified or misclassified as black. Ask me how I know. My son's an economist. It features this black and white symbol flag that's flying at the courthouse and at federal buildings, the silhouette of a man's head, a watchtower, barbecued barbed wire, and the motto, "You are not forgotten." The white silhouette depicts a prisoner of war. Watchtower and barbed wire symbolize the harsh conditions of a prison camp. America's the biggest prison camp for people classified as black. Or it was, but it's a new day. It's a new season. The sleeping giants have awakened. It reads, missing POWs missing in action at the top, and you are not forgotten at the bottom. Now, it could be created for other prisoners of war that are American otherwise, or United States citizens, but it's also, and I learned this from people who actually know. You think people that come over here decoding is just everyday average people? Why you think they know so much? Oh, they know because they're in the know. Whether they tell me or not, they know because they're in the know. But let's get back to how East Indians, remember the woman said to Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, we have a contract with the United States government. I have to find that video. Why are you taking such a hard stance against migration, immigration, and H-1B visas? Marco Rubio said, because we have an issue and a problem here where you're taking over the jobs and it's disrupting the American economy. And now Americans, United States citizens that are here because H-1B visas doesn't make you a United States citizen. You're a foreign national that's eating off of the American people. It's a migratory issue. Let me see if I can show you what I really, really need to show you. Yeah, I'm disturbed. You know what's interesting? You'll have some people say, "Oh my God, she is, against immigrants. She's this, she's that. Dr. Pruitt, she's a this." No, I love my people just like you love yours. And the thing about me is, I've been fighting for the human race, everybody. But at some point, I have to highlight what's been going on in people classified as black. I don't have to, I choose to. Oh, that's the Dr. Kia Pruitt show. Hold on, something about the Dr. Kia Pruitt show. No, that's not what I want to bring up. This is what I want to bring up. Indian hotels sold drugs. I just Googled that and my heart sunk. Why is the Brahmin class over here? Why are so many East Indians over here? If they're at the top of the caste system at home. If you Google East Indians sold drugs, East Indian hotel sold drugs, look at all the articles. Indian motel operators Kosh and Taran Sharman arrested. This is United States News. 2 Indian hotel operators have been arrested and charged in connection with the drug and sex trafficking operation at the Red Carpet Inn. Department of Justice, federal operation target Nebraska human trafficking. Drug traffickers allegedly received protection from the law enforcement. Didn't I tell you that law enforcement has been working with a lot of these people that own convenience stores and gas stations? And that's why the police department and their police officers park outside the gas stations. They're protecting their investments. These companies that are here on our lands sell the drugs to black men who either don't have an opportunity or did not avail themselves of opportunities. And then those men and women sell the drugs to their own community. Everybody needs to be held accountable. If we really care about our communities and our people, we'll take a stance against all of the drug operations that's going on here. And furthermore, we'll create opportunities so that people won't have to participate in the underground economy. Because the thing is, now black people that's participating in the underground economy, or indigenous people, more correctly put, are participating in the underground economy. They're criminals. They're super predators. But when it was the Italians that were here participating in the underground economy, because they were also mistreated when they first came to the Americas and called the white niggas, and the Irish, when they were participating in the underground economy, it wasn't that bad. It was glamorized. Gangster activity, the gangster mafia. Oh, it was glorified. The movies were made about it. It was such a big deal. But a lot of them were considered the niggas of the so-called European race. I'm talking about the Irish and the Italians. But don't get it twisted. A lot of them brought their money over here too. Especially the Sicilians, they are really connected to their African ancestry. Their great grandmothers are still brown. And the Irish with the red hair, when you have red hair, it means you about 3-4 generations from your original indigenous so-called black blood relative. That's why all of the gingers are excited now. Oh, I found that I was black. Well, we been knew that. Your great grandmother was African or indigenous. That's why you got curly hair. Drug traffickers allegedly received protection from law enforcement in the same manner in which human traffickers were also shielded by the government. We're talking about Indian. 5 Indian American charged with sex trafficking in Nebraska. That's what they're talking about. Now, why do I say you're not Indian American? You're not Japanese American. You're not Pakistani American. You're not this American. Because you're not. You can't be both at the same time. American are the copper-colored races discovered by Europeans, but now applied to Europeans. You might be an Indian with a United States citizenship or United States green card. You might be a Pakistani United States citizen, but you're not Pakistani American. Did you marry somebody that's indigenous and American, or maybe your children, or did you have children by the original American? Okay, then you're not American. You're United States citizen, and this is why citizenship is being so challenged. Citizenship status, DACA, deferred action for childhood arrivals, United States citizenship, what is it called? All citizenship. Everybody here that's saying they're some kind of citizen is all being overlooked. I mean, all being closely looked at. Because a citizen is chattel property of the United States corporation. It is not the same thing or not synonymous with American. People just didn't know that. But if you don't know, now you know. 2 Indians caught in the biggest crime racket in the United States. 2 Indian origin hotel operators were arrested after an FBI raid at Virginia motel. Authorities allege drug and prostitution were run through those motels. Motel was a haven for drug peddling, officials say. In New York City, 2 Indian origin men have admitted to drug and firearm charges arising from a drug trafficking venture. How drugs and debauchery brought down this hotel air. Another article about an Indian who was a hotelier and a public face for the hotel. Prescription drugs and drugs of all type of even illicit drugs run through the hotel. An Indian origin couple along with 3 others have been arrested. Canada seizes 139 million worth of drugs. Multiple Indian origin drivers arrested. Canadian authorities have foiled a major drug trafficking ring. Here's another one. The Times of India, drug trafficking forcing migrant minors to work at hotels. 5 East Indian nationals, foreign nationals, who may or may not have United States citizenship, that's my commentary, were charged in Nebraska. Club drugs in India, and an analyst of newspaper reports. Club drugs use has been associated with serious physical and psychiatric disorders, risky sexual behaviors, HIV infections, violence, and otherwise. Omaha area motel salons, human trafficking tied to, well, let's just go ahead and look at this one. Omaha area motel salons, human trafficking tied to multi-year probe and 5 arrests in August of 2025. I'm not saying that they're the only ones doing it, East Indians doing it. I'm just highlighting why so many of them are here. They've been trafficking drugs, laundering money, prostituting. And guess what? They don't give 2 rats behinds if your mama, daughter, sister, auntie, grandma is strung out on drugs and selling her body so she can get a hold of some drugs. They don't care because it's not their bloodline. This is why it's not just about proximity. We don't care if people saying, I was born here, I should be a citizen through birthright citizenship. It's not just about proximity. It's about allegiance. You don't believe me? Look at John Eastman, a constitutional lawyer out of California, who said that the reason why people who are have foreign national blood cannot run for president is because the founding fathers wanted to make sure that whoever was in leadership positions had to have allegiance to the American people. It's not just about being native born. So in order to be president or to serve at a high level, you're supposed to be native born and be subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Native born. But I say all the time, native born is not the same as natural born. So all these so-called Native Americans that think they should have birthright citizenship, baby, native born means you was born on the land, born here. Okay, natural born means your ancestors sprung from the soil. So you could call yourself native born all day long. Nobody cares when it comes to whether or not you need to have rights that come from our lawful republic. The republic was created by indigenous people here, and the laws of our Constitution were founded upon Iroquois and real Indian American laws and precepts. The East Indians that are here calling themselves Indians, they are not the real Indian of America or from the soil here. So native born, oh, I was born here, I should have citizenship status. But you're not natural born, meaning your peoples didn't spring from the soil. And it's not just about proximity, it's about allegiance. That's why so many people sent their children here, or their pregnant women came here to give birth to their children here. And then they sent them back abroad to be educated by their communist people or their bloodline people that had their own ancestral teachings there, and then allowed to come back here at 18 to vote and to be educated in our public institutions at the higher level and become lawyers and doctors and whatever else, bankers and whatever else, but they still have allegiance to the land of their ancestors. It's not just about proximity. You might have been born here, but you don't have allegiance here, or else you wouldn't be running drugs here. Else you wouldn't launder money here, or else a lot of the money that was flagged by TSA wouldn't have come from African communities, Asian communities, India and China, from the continent of Asia, South American, Central American communities. Do your own digging as an investigative journalist. You'll see a lot of money, billions, shipped out of here abroad. They don't care about the original American here. They probably don't even care about the so-called United States citizen here. They only care about their bloodline. But as my daddy taught me, the first law of nature is self-preservation. These people are so greedy, so egregious, so horrendous, so entitled that they care more about themselves than they do any other people. And they don't give a darn if they steal from you, rape you, murder you, launder drugs in your communities, traffic, sell to you, exploit you, take your energy by having their businesses in your communities. They don't care. And they're so egregious, so horrendous that they're fighting to stay over here. They're hiring their immigration attorneys. Do you know why they hire immigration attorneys? Because most of your immigration attorneys are not American. Look it up. I don't care if they call themselves United States citizens. They're not the copper-colored people discovered by Europeans. Therefore, they're not American. Many of them are literal foreign nationals that came here with their already fake law degrees, or they came here as undocumented people and were allowed to practice law. They were allowed to go to Ivy League institutions. How do you know, Pruitt? Because I worked in higher ed administration, and I know these universities from which I work and many others have undocumented student offices where they give free money and they give tuition and they give free housing and food to these foreign nationals that are not even documented here. And you could go to Stanford University, I think that's in California, and some of these other Ivy League universities as an undocumented foreign national and get a law degree and practice law here. That's what a lot of them are doing here. So they're just hiring their buddies and people from their countries and other foreign nationals that are from Africa, Asia, Europe, South America, Central America. And they're going to them, hiring them, paying them lots of money to fight to stay in somebody else's home. The nerve, the audacity, the caucasity. I'm just here to make you think. That's what one of our brothers would say. But I'm actually here to wake you up and to say that a lot of people, including East Indians, are here trafficking drugs and laundering money. And it's not just East Indians, it's some people that look like you. You know, some of the Caribbeans that came here. I mean, I remember watching Miami Vice and some of these other shows when I was a kid and I was sneaking watch these shows at grandma's house because we weren't allowed to watch TV at mama's house or when my grandmother would allow us to watch TV. And some of those shows may or may not be based on reality. A lot of people that were here under duress or here because they had natural catastrophes in their country were running drugs, guns, trafficking organs, etc. on our lands in Miami and other places. So they came here under temporary protective status, many of them. And some of them just came here because they were in close proximity. And so their moms came here and delivered their children here. And just because they were delivered here, their children can be considered birthright citizens and have United States citizen status. The reason why President Donald Trump is challenging birthright citizen status is because these attorneys that are not real lawful judges or not lawful lawyers, they work for the British Crown. That's why they have to pass the bar, the British Accredited Registry. A lot of them use the 14th Amendment to justify allowing foreign nationals to have their children here, therefore allowing their children to be classified as citizens. But the 14th Amendment was not created for foreign nationals or rich Chinese from China or Indians. President Donald Trump said that people got mad, but it's the truth. The 14th Amendment was created after the Civil War for children of African American slaves. So now they're misinterpreting the law, these attorneys, because they were paid to do so and they were allowed to do so. And they were utilizing their power working for the British Crown that had actually been complicit in enslaving the real Americans here, the indigenous people here. They were all colluding together to allow everybody else and their mother, brother, father, sister, mom, and otherwise cousins, aunties, and uncles to come here. They're all colluded. So they used the 14th Amendment erroneously to justify allowing people to be considered United States citizens just because they were born on the land. But the thing about that I love about justice is that even if you had a privilege of being here, a so-called right to be here because you were born on this land, it doesn't matter because United States citizenship has to die. That whole status has to die along with the corporation that granted the citizenship. Let's be clear. United States citizenship is a status that was rendered by the corporation called the United States Incorporated, that illegal, unlawful, unconstitutional, treasonous entity that was declared as such by the Supreme Court of the United States in the month of June 2024. You know that United States Corporation that was operating with expansive powers that was afforded to it by the Chevron Doctrine. Remember in June of 2024, when the Supreme Court of the United States overturned the Chevron Doctrine, and then they went further to say that the powers of the United States Incorporated were expanded through the Chevron Doctrine, therefore they overturned it. And that same Supreme Court of the United States said that the corporation called the United States Incorporated and all 447 entities, agencies, operated unlawfully and treasonous and unconstitutional. Yeah, they are being dismantled. That's why we're under a partial government shutdown now. That's why government workers are losing their jobs, and they have been since 2025. Because that entity, the bloodline families that colluded against the indigenous, autogenous, original American, misclassified as Black, colored, Negro, and African American, those that made us the prisoners of war and their bloodline families and their human hybrids, those that had a relationship with the British Crown, they incorporated themselves as a corporation in 1871. They incorporated themselves as a nonprofit religious organization with the Pope as the head, and they had their own constitution called the United States, the Constitution of the United States Incorporated. Those bloodline families, that corporation, all that has been overturned. And the Supreme Court of the United States said they're treasonous, unlawful, unconstitutional. And then the Supreme Court of the United States said any judge that went along with the United States Incorporated and colluded with them and caused us to have to pay them taxes and infringe upon our freedoms, those judges also committed treason, just like the United States Incorporated and all government agencies, all committed treason. And any judge that knew of a judge that went along with all these shenanigans and didn't report it to the president, they committed misprision of treason. That corporation that was also deemed by the United States Treasury Department, which is part of our lawful republic and the Constitution for our republic, which is lawful, which is the Constitution for the indigenous American people here, and any person we have a treaty with, that entity, the United States Treasury Department, said the United States Incorporated is defunct, insolvent, has no money, broke. That's why Janet Yellen said under the Biden administration, we've reached the debt ceiling. We have to take extraordinary measures to make ourselves whole. We're going to have to steal money from government workers to make ourselves whole. Yeah, that is the entity that granted people United States citizenship. That entity is gone, broke, insolvent, being dismantled. That's why the Department of Government Efficiency was created under the Trump administration in 2025. And they then uncovered and discovered all the money laundering that was going on and all the U.S. aid money that didn't go to these countries to help them at all, these third world countries that some people call them emerging economies, whatever, third world, fourth world, whatever. That money wasn't really going to them to help them. That money was teaching them democratic ideologies, homosexuality, funneling money into homosexuality, prostitution, transsexualism, and all that other stuff that should not even be a part of the United States Incorporated's ideology because they claim they have Christian principles. But let's just be clear. United States citizenship is a status afforded by the now defunct, insolvent, broke corporation formerly known as the United States Incorporated. They're dead, they're gone, and now the republic is being restored. So anything granted by that defunct, dead corporation has to also die with it. Citizenship status has nothing to do with the lawful republic. Citizenship status means that you or whoever classified as citizen, even people classified as Black, they tricked us into saying that too. We were citizens. We were never supposed to be citizens. We're sovereign. That status has to go. That's why birthright citizenship is being questioned. That's why the so-called Native Americans here that came from Siberia and crossed the Bering Strait now are being told, you're not American, you're not Indian, you don't look like Indians to me, and you sure don't look like Indians to Indians. You look like the Asians that you are. The same people that are now coming from China and other Asian nations, East India, to come here to launder money and traffic drugs throughout the country, and especially the Black community. Same bloodline wars. So United States citizenship status, it has to die. They're just going one community and nationality after the other. Citizenship status, it comes from the United States Incorporated. They grant privileges, not rights. You have blood right ties to the land from which your people come. You have rights from your country. The Americans have rights because they have blood right ties to the land here. A right is really something granted to you by God or afforded to you by God. Now, if you think a creator or a God is going to grant somebody rights to the land from somebody else, from people that sprung from the soil in a certain particular region, you must not know who a true creator is. Because any entity that creates is going to take care of its creation. And yes, so-called God or source may love everybody, but they also would want you to operate in integrity and in honor. And every nation has to be on a level playing field. So if I can't give birth to my child in China and my child automatically be deemed as a Chinese citizen and automatically get a Chinese passport, then we're not allowing that here in America. This is the only place where people have come from all over the world to give birth to their children. Here, and have you heard about birth tourism? This is a big industry where Asian countries and other countries have established businesses right here in America and recruited Indian women, African women from different tribes in Africa, Chinese women, and everybody else to come here. Birth tourism. They have these beautiful big facilities that recruit foreign nationals to come here. They get flown here on the best flights. They get the best medical treatment. They get the best excursions while they're here, best access to medicine while they're here. They get government benefits, welfare, food stamps. You know how they call so-called Black people welfare queens and made fun of us because we had 10 children? Well, they didn't say nothing about the foreign nationals that come here and have as many children as they want. They don't say anything about the foreign national men that come here with their 8, 9, 10, 1,200 wives to deliver babies here through birth tourism. As a matter of fact, President Trump is, thank God, taking a stance against foreign birth tourism. Yeah, they will recruit them to come here. You have a nice facility. You can fly here on first class. You have the best doctors, the best medical facilities. You can tour Disney World, Disneyland, and all these different places all over the Americas. And you can have food stamps, welfare, and other benefits while you're here. And so can all of your relatives that are here right along with you. And the women will get the most pristine treatment. And then a child that you bring forth here can automatically get a United States passport. And they can either stay here and be educated, or they can go back to Communist Party of China or East India or African nations or whatever, be educated however y'all raise them up there, and bring them here at 18 and let them vote for the Democratic Party or even the Republican Party. It all depends on which party is against the American indigenous people the most at the time. Oh yeah, birth tourism. Meanwhile, if you're an American, and maybe even if you're a United States citizen here, you got to take whatever you take. You might get Medicaid, or you just go home with a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 bill that the United States citizen taxpayer has to pay off. And who's paying off the bills of the people that come here through birth tourism from foreign nations? Again, those people that come here have citizenship status, and they are afforded privileges, not right. So when they say I have a right to be here, they've been miseducated. You don't have a right, you have a privilege. You have a right to be in the country from your forefathers. And that's why we have sovereign wealth funds all over the world now. The sovereign wealth fund is a trust that's comprised of precious metals, real estate, oil, other commodities, rare earth minerals, money from taxes and tariffs. All that is put into a trust for the nationals of the nation that created the sovereign wealth fund. All people. All other nations had some type of sovereign wealth fund, especially oil-rich nations. But America, we didn't have one. So President Trump created one here in America in 2025. The sovereign wealth fund is a fund that's for the sovereign beings on the lands. So the reason why deportation is really heavily discussed now, birthright citizenship, H-1B statuses, F-1 status, where international students were coming here to study English, but they never left because all they had to do was file something called, I think it's an I-20, and they can stay here. They would just study English, then they would get an associate's degree, then a bachelor's degree, then a second bachelor's degree, then a master's degree, then a second master's degree, then a PhD, then a medical degree, then a law degree, or get certification after certification. Because every institution, almost any institution, would take you as long as you paying them or the government's paying them. So they would get here on F-1 visa, these international students, and just never leave. But they weren't here lawfully. They may have come legally, but they stayed because they just kept getting degrees. So that's some F-1 students, the foreign national students that were studying here, H-1B visas, those work permits and other visas that allow people to work here, humanitarian visa, those were up last year. Those were only supposed to be for 2 years. The ones on humanitarian effort that came from Cuba, Honduras, Haiti, and there's Venezuela. Their status ran out last year and their work visas have ended, but they filed for something called immunity. And many of them changed their status here while they were here in America. But President Trump came and said, no, you got to go back home and change your status there from now on. But their work permits are up. The humanitarian visas are up. They just staying here waiting for the green card. That might not ever come, but the work visa is up. And anybody that hires them could face criminal arrest because they're not supposed to be here. Their work permits are up. Now, some of them may be allowed to stay here until they get a green card, but even a green card doesn't ensure permanent residency. They have a timestamp on them. So you have humanitarian visas, H-1B visas, other work permits, other work visas, tourism visa, deferred action for childhood arrivals, all these different visas and permits that allow people to come here were pathways, according to them, to remain in our country and live off of our state, our land, and our wealth. And they're fighting not to go back home. But the good news is sovereign wealth funds are being created all over the world so that people, when they are deported, whether self-deportation or they sent home, can have access to the wealth that has been funded by their governments and wealth that came from humanitarians and nationals from their lands. America is for Americans. The American dream is for Americans, not for everybody and their mammy and pappy. Hey, the government lied to you. They were colluding with you to allow you to eat off our estate. But the time is up. The contracts have been dissolved. They've ended. It's a whole new era. It's a whole new golden era. That's what Corona was about. Corona means crown, literally. Crown as in the crown chakra is waking up. The Christos consciousness all over the planet has awakened. And Corona, crown as in gold, as we've come into a whole new golden era, the great awakening, where everybody's waking up and realizing that we all been lied to. Whether you've been lied to about you being indigenous from certain parts of the world, or you've been lied to and told that you're better than the indigenous people here, therefore you can stay away from them, eat off of them, and mistreat them and disrespect them. You've been lied to, that told that we were just chattel property. We were just slaves from African slave ship, African booty scratcher, 3/5 of the human. You didn't even know they was talking about your own bloodline. The nerve of those people to lie to you. The nerve. You should be angry at the elite, whether they're the black nobility or otherwise. And now that we've awakened all over the world, we need to do what we can do to restore the human spirit and to take care of your posterity. Let me speak to the indigenous people misclassified as Black, Negro, colored, and African American. Everybody has eaten off of you. Everybody has decided to take care of their own. Money passes through their community hundreds of times, at least tens of 20s and hundreds of times before it goes out of their community. They might eat off of you and have businesses in your community, but they don't invest in your community. And they tell their people not to marry your people. So it's time for you to wake up and start creating businesses, build them up in your communities, and let the money pass through your community before it leaves, because everybody else in their mammy and pappy is doing it. Why not you? Why is it that the indigenous people have to care about and love everybody on the planet? That's who we are. That's how we were built. We are the first on this planet. Everybody comes from us. Everybody, for the most part, their genetics spring from us or were mixed with us. That's why we love everybody. That's why we fought for even the foreign nationals that were standing against us. We fought to keep them here. We built this nation. Hell, our ancestors sprung from the soil. It wasn't that we built this nation because we came from slave ships. No, the plantation was Big Mama's house. The plantation was our ancestors' land that may have been stolen from us by the government and all these people that came here. But you can't steal what doesn't come from you and hold it forever. And a lot of people that were allowed to come here and farm and have businesses, their contracts are up. Even when they bought land here, all over the world. It is a worldwide policy that you can only lease the land for 99 years. That's why Zimbabwe and South Africa was allowed to kick out so-called white farmers. They were only there on lease, borrowed time. Everybody else here is here. They were here on borrowed time. It's time for us to wake up. You know, we've loved everybody. We fought for them. We fought for their civil rights. But now we're saying we're concerned about human rights. People all over the world have a right to freedom, life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness on their own lands and the land and home of their ancestors. If they don't like that, they can take it up with the prelates and the presidents in power. But it's the truth. We fought for them. We stood for them. We marched with everybody else that was here. When they said don't have Asian hate in Atlanta, Black people, especially the ones part of Black Greek fraternity secret societies, because they were told what to do, fought for them. We was like, what Asians are being mistreated? People classified as Black go to the Asian nail shops, love Chinese food. Like, what are they talking about? But we stood with them. When the Mexicans, during the Brown Revolution, when they were going through their mistreatment, we stood with them. When everybody, when Caucasian women, white women through the feminist movement said they hated their men and they were mad at their men because their men had jobs and they were mistreating them, the women classified as Black said, yeah, we mad at our men too, knowing good full well that our men were being mistreated in mass and kept out of jobs and opportunities. And we were redlined, kept out of our own homes, own land, own communities, and farms land stolen from us. But we fought with the Caucasian women. We fought with and for everybody else. We even fought for Black Lives Matter and Antifa, not even realizing they were funded by George Soros and their billionaire Caucasian buddies that really probably aren't even human. We fought for everybody. We stood with everybody. We marched with everybody. Who's marching for us? What nation in the world says, hey, people classified as Black, you've been prisoners of war. Hey, people classified as Black, you had a natural disaster in your country, so you can come here and seek refuge. And not only who said it, who meant it and put action behind it. Because, yeah, I heard Ghana said Black people come home. But you know what? During the year of return, I had relatives that went there and they were told outright, this is the year of return for Ghanaians that went abroad, not Black people from America. And that's why people classified as Black that went over to Ghana seeking land and some type of citizenship status were fighting 10, 20 years and never got it. One family, sisters that went over there were unalived by Ghanaians. You know why? I was there when it happened because they thought we have a right to this land. My people came from Africa. I took my DNA test and they fought with them elders and them people over there and they came up missing, both of them, 2 Black sisters. African American, indigenous people from America. This is what I mean. You go to somebody else's country and you try to assert your dominance and tell them what's your right and what you gonna do and fighting the elders there. You might come up missing. Only in America do they get away with waving their flags egregiously against us. And hey, be grateful and happy about wherever you came from. But to wave your flag on somebody else's land can be deemed as a war tactic. To burn the American flag should be against the law, or the American, or even the United States Incorporated flag. It should not be allowed here. Go to somebody else's homeland and burn their flag. See what happens. Shout arrogantly at their president or their prime minister and see what happens. Get on social media and talk about how your country is better than their country and you're in their country laundering drugs and monies and establishing businesses and see what happens. Say you have a right to the land and see what happens over there. But the same people that come over here doing all that kind of stuff, using all that rhetoric, talking about how good their country is and better than theirs, how better they are than Black Americans, the indigenous, real, true Americans here. Those people that do that come here will not do it in their own country because they know what will happen to them. Let them go back to their country and shout to their prime ministers and their presidents and tell them they demand freedom. Let them go back there and tell them that they have a right to the land because they do have a right to the land from which they came. But they want to be here and we want to fight for them. It's time now to wake up and start fighting for your own. You can love everybody, but don't leave your own out. Everybody, make sure that the money passes through their community a whole bunch of times before it leaves the community. Everybody else but us. But I get it. We were kept out of businesses. We were kept out of opportunities. We kept out of jobs. They poisoned us with their drugs, their guns, their rhetoric, their politics, all that. Their programming, their slavery narrative. They poisoned us and pit the man against the woman, told the woman, you better than the man. You need to establish and rise above the man, and told the man, you better than the woman. And you need to have, it's okay to cheat and it's okay to do this and that because the numbers are in your favor. You can mistreat women if you want because there's so many women, 10 women to one man. Oh, or told the men they're nothing but bees and hoes. Then they have us out here acting like bees and hoes. What they classified as that through their music. And they make sure that women classified as black look like beasts in their movies. We can either be a whore, somebody, a rich white man's bed wench or a mistress, or you can be a crack addict, or you can be a bad bee, a boss bee that hates men. But rarely would you see a very healthy, whole, indigenous woman classified as black that's married, that has a family, that loves her husband. But they would highlight the Caucasian woman as sweet, pleasant, married, even fighting for the black people in schools as some kind of a teacher, benevolent. But they would represent us or portray us as literal beasts that cuss, do drugs, sleep around. And some of us have bought into their behavior. And then they hire out entertainers that are not even indigenous American. Look at the entertainers. Look at the singers. Akon. Who else? Nicki Minaj. I love it when you call me Big Papa. Many of them. LMI. That Caesar character, a lot of those entertainers and singers, they're not American. They're not Black American. They're not indigenous people that sprung from the soil here. They're Caribbean. They're African. They're South Central American. They based out of London. And they are paid agents that misrepresent us and put that disrespectful language and disrespectful behavior in our consciousness through the music and through the movies. It's time out. Turn off the television, turn off the music, create your own benevolent, high vibrational music. Create your own stories and movies. Now you have an opportunity where you can do a movie and you can put it on YouTube. You could create cartoons for your children and put it on YouTube. You have an opportunity now to write good, whole, benevolent music, not just for your community, for everybody. But start with your community. We have opportunities now to start schools. In many states right now, you can get grants and scholarships to homeschool your own children. Florida, definitely you can do that. I'm in the state of Florida, but look it up. States all across America are starting to do that, and more states will do that. So we can homeschool our children. We can create our own school. You know what? The main three reasons I took my children out of public schools. Number one, Chief Rod Hayes, also known as Chief Pontiac, said, take your children out of schools. And I have a tendency to follow the chiefs and the elders because that's the way I was taught. They have wisdom passed down from the ancestors, and they've done the research. Lay down, get some rest, baby. Number two, we homeschooled ours, and then we started a private school. My sister-in-law did. And then she brought me on, and my children's father, my husband, God rest his soul, and others. We and my brothers-in-law, we said, we're going to put our money together, and we started in her basement. Then we went to the YMCA. And then my brother-in-law, who had a very good business sense and great credit, bought a building. He bought a church where we could worship. And in that facility, we expanded our school. When there is a motive or an intention, the universe starts to work in your favor. The moment you make up your mind, the universe conspires to assist you. Not just indigenous people, everybody. Everybody can do this. Create your own schools, your own daycare centers. There's somebody in your community that loves children. There's a certified teacher somewhere in your community that can't find work or can't continue working for other people. I took my children out of schools because I said, hey, we homeschooled our children. Chief Rod Hayes said it's time to take the children out of the schools with all of this rhetoric in there that's against against our values. And thirdly, my grandchildren were getting sick. The energy that was in the schools, the mistreatment, the disrespect. Some of the bullying come from other children who, that's just something some children do. But you never know what's going on in these people's homes. You never know how they were taught and how they were raised. But they were getting physically ill because of the energy and the diseases that were passing through the schools. And this one here, Amin Ra, said to me, it's the energy. He would call me almost every day from school. The energy. And even sometimes I take them out to places like we went to one farmer's market. There were some areas that we went, they just start literally getting physically sick. And then when I started looking with my natural eye and spiritual eye, I could see that the people, their energy was off, negative, wouldn't serve us, wouldn't come speak to us. Listen, everybody don't love you. Everybody does not care about you. People are concerned about themselves and their own bloodline. So I took my children, my grandchildren out because I have a vision for them. And I know that nowadays, remember I was telling you they're recruiting this birth tourism thing? They were recruiting people from all over. Is that Uncle Doug? That's Auntie. They're also recruiting teachers from all across the world to come and teach in the schools to teach your children. So that's it, family. 709 people in the chat. I know I've said a lot, but it's time for us to wake up. A lot of people here in our schools, in our hotels and motels, in our communities are laundering drugs and all type of things in our community because they are here to enrich themselves and they're sending a lot of that money abroad. And I showed you TSA is now being replaced by private security companies because TSA flagged billions of dollars leaving America going to other countries, but they didn't confiscate it. Look at my video where I talked about that. Okay. So they're being replaced by private companies. The only reason why TSA, I'm gonna finish cooking, was allowed, it was even created, was because they took the place of private security in the airports after 119, read 119 backwards, what happened September 11th. After that, the government took over and created TSA so that they then start allowing money to be laundered. You can look at videos all over YouTube and you'll see a lot of Chinese people being arrested at the airport, having tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash and automatic weapon parts. In fact, in 2020 in Louisville, Kentucky, where I once lived, 10,000 automatic weapon parts was confiscated. These automatic weapon parts came from China. It says Communist Party of China. The articles do. And there was the PNC whole complex was taken over by the FBI because money was laundered through there. And a lot of trafficking was laundered through that complex that was run by foreign nationals. Look up Cleveland from where I was born. The whole downtown Cleveland is owned by Ukrainian mafia. Thank you for the gift. A lot of people were here and they were allowed to come here and live off of us and our energy, and they were allowed to launder drugs and otherwise into our communities. We have to stop these people. The best way, you want to join my private page? Good, thank you so much. We have to stop it. The best way to stop it is to stop patronizing people that are here hurting us and living off our energy. That's the best way. And create your own so that you can take care of your own children, your own community. And we need to create, yes, liquor stores are open too. That was funneling a lot of bad things there. Create something for your children and your posterity. Other people are doing these private schools that's private on your land. They didn't create that for you, for the indigenous American. They created that for their children. Funny enough, we're not the only people. Somebody says I'm from, hi, Mindful, came from California. We're not the only people affected by this. In my neighborhood, mostly Hispanic and white people support those businesses. Wow. All right, family. It's almost dinner time here. I need to feed my family. Somebody says, "Thank you for your time. Speak, Dr. Pruitt, and investigate. Thank you for your investigation skills to keep the collective in the knowing." It's really painful to see how so many people were allowed to come here and traffic so many drugs and other things. It's mind blowing and it's sick heartening. I agree. I'm agreeing with you. Are It's hurtful, um, but it's our opportunity. We have an opportunity to change that. We need to reestablish a covenant agreements, not just like in partnerships like marriage, but covenant agreements with other tribes to take care of the community. You know, when the Chinese were over mining gold in Ghana, which is called the Gold Coast, they would bring in Chinese food, bring in Chinese overlords to oversee the Ghanaian young men there, bring in Chinese tools. And they even wrote a book called Africa is China's New Second Continent. That book came out around 2014, 2015 when I was staying in Ghana. And they were underpaying the Ghanaian people. And there were some Ghanaian young men who told my sons, they were like, we'd rather get paid by the white men because at least they pay us more money than the Chinese. The Chinese underpay us, won't give anything back into the community, eat their own food, but they'll sleep with the women and pay them money while they treat them as whores. Excuse me, WHORE. Teach them as unlovable women. And they had guns on the mines in Ghana, and they would hold the guns to the heads of the Ghanaians that were mining their own gold in their country. So a lot has been allowed to happen, not only here in America, but all across the world. And all of those, like the Belfort Agreement, was that it? No, not the Belfort Agreement gave the people that are Rothschilds, really, that area in Pakistan region called, that they erroneously call Israel. Israel's really here. But what is that? The Berlin Conference. The Berlin Conference, the scramble for Africa, where European nations were allowed to divide Africa and steal their resources. Hi, Denise, good to see you. Said, hey, Doc, didn't know you were like, hey, sister, I love you. The Berlin Conference, that's been done away with. And that's why the French kicked the French African nations, the colonized African nations, kicked out the colonists. Burkina Faso, Mali, Senegal, Chad, and there's another one. They kicked them out. And they said, we got our own military and we have support from Russia and we have our own currencies. We're going to have one Africa and one African payment platform called PAPS, Pan-African Payment System. And they're eventually want to have one African currency. But they are saying we are kicking out European colonists. And they did. And the France's economy is collapsing right now. And the French people got rid of the whole treasury, the whole finance administration, because they got so upset that they could no longer live off the blood, sweat, and tears and wealth of the African nations that they colonized, that they kicked out all those that were a part of the finance industry in France. That was a couple of years ago. They're kicking out colonists. And this is what we're doing here in America. People just don't understand how Donald Trump, who looks like he's a Caucasian, is kicking out so many people. Because you don't really know who's under that mask. Because we know, right? Many people have said that the real Trump transitioned in 1989 to a plane crash or some type of crash. Now, some people say he escaped that, but reports came out in 1989. And there were many investigative journalists that said that, and still to this day stand on it. Who was that one? What's that one that said it? He's from Japan. No, he's a Canadian, and then he moved to Japan at one time. What is his name? Canadian guy said that. What is his name? He does reports now, still. But he said the real Trump passed in 1989. David Keith Quigley, who says he's the real JFK Jr. He said the same thing. A lot of people said that. But whether it's the real Trump or not, he's now working on behalf of the American people. So it's time for everything to be disclosed. This is the era of disclosure. This is the great awakening. This is the age of corona where the crown chakra is being activated and people are just waking up. And people are not standing for disrespect, exploitation, or outright theft, whether it's identity theft, calling yourself American when you're not, or wealth theft, or land theft. We're not standing for it anywhere. Hashtag freedom now. Freedom now in the comments section, family. We're all being liberated. Even the people that's been sent back to their country, you're being liberated because no longer are you allowed to live under the illusion that you're somehow better than the American people here. You're being set free. Now you'll be able to have access to the sovereign wealth in your own nation, which is your right. Freedom now in the comments section. They're living off our very breath. The same breath can blow on you, you said. Yeah, they're buying the extended stays in Minnesota. They were buying up everything in the Caribbean, buying land in Africa and taking the mines or exploiting the mines, all that. Yeah, now they can go home. We had a very nasty Indian hotel down the street in Mount Clemens for a long time. I had to pick up some of my customers. Back then, it took them so long to shut it down and so long to tear it down, Tony says. A lot of those places are filthy. It's sad. Sometimes I can look at these hotels and the convenience stores and gas stations and I can tell who owns them, who doesn't. United States citizens and Americans tend to have cleaner places because we're held to a high standard. We couldn't get along and nail shops, all that. We couldn't get away with what other people are allowed to get away with. Yep. Yeah, they called our children super predators. You remember that, Chicago South Side? I remember Miss Clinton doing that, or Mr. Clinton saying that. We were pushed 20 years to life in prison behind weed alone, and now they sell it legally. Look what my granddaughter just made. You just juiced me some orange juice. Oh, it looks delicious. See, she has a juicer. Mm. Oh, that's nice and sweet. Thank you, baby. Members of the country of India are the new chemists, pushers in our land. The Arabs that own Crown Fried Chicken are huge dealers as well, and the cops allow it. See, they did. They allowed it and they still allow it, but their time is up. Prohibition to mass incarceration. Yep. And then they had the school to prison pipeline that's now well documented. That's why we have to teach our own. Kamala and Obama made a contract with Asia and gave them a hate crime bill protection with the help of Black Caucus. Wow. Thank you for that, FK, the peep. Yeah, yeah. Everybody that look like us ain't us. They not like us. They not like us. That's why they can do egregious things by pushing hatred, criminal activity, debauchery in their music, in their rhetoric, and they can participate in the drug ring and gangster activity because they might look like us, but they not us, and they'll let you know they're not. And we hear you loudly and clearly. Now that it's time to go back home, don't tether yourself to us because we're cutting the tether cords. President Trump is right now cutting the cord. Freedom now in the comments section. Everybody's being liberated. Everybody's been set free, free to roam about in their own homelands, free to go to their countries and make their country great again. Free, if you're American, to make America great. Free to create a life plan for your family, and create a plan and accumulate wealth and protect your wealth and your assets. All right, family. Thank you so much for your time. I love you so much. Thank you for the gifts. Girl, I say girl. Everything's under question now because the lawful republic is being restored. And the states are now operating in their sovereign capacity. That you know that because states are now um, funding their own schools. States have rejected money from the United States Department of Education, which is being dismantled right now. States are now removing taxes from precious metals because they're reclaiming silver and gold as money, which they call classified silver and gold as legal tender, meaning you can buy local goods and services right now. So use this as an opportunity. Get some silver and gold. Get small denominations of silver and gold if gold and silver is out of reach. Small denomination, get gold backs, also known as gold RM notes. 24 karat gold on a polymer note that you can use right now to buy local goods and services. One gold note is $8. You can get a smaller denomination, but do what you can to create wealth and create your own family bank. You're welcome, Sister Janine says, Doc. Yes, you have. Create your own bank for your family. Create your own schools. All right, family, that's it. Thank you so much for your time. We had more than 700 people in the chat. We're down to 638. Thank you for your time. Somebody say indoctrination. Thank you for your energy, just being here, just showing up. Thank you for sharing the video, liking the video. Brother Kevin said, "I love the spicy side of Kia. Welcome to my world." There comes a time when you just say enough is enough. Like Kendrick Lamar said, they're not like us. People are doing whatever they can for their own bloodline. And a lot of these people are already wealthy coming to America, living off of our energy, our wealth, and our estate. They're already wealthy. They're coming from the rich. That's why President Trump said the 14th Amendment was not for rich billionaire Chinese that's coming here, delivering their babies here to automatically be called citizens through birthright citizenship. That's not what it was created for. And a lot of people don't like that, but you don't have to like it. It is what it is. Their time is up. It's our time to shine. New member, thank you, Miller. I thought you were already a member. If you are interested, family, in joining our private membership group where we talk about investments, establishing community, protecting your assets, then please join our membership group. You can hit any of the buttons that say join, follow the prompts, and you'll be right in there. Or you can click on this link that I'm about to send you. Welcome, Miller. Welcome. So good to see you or see you back. I thought you were already a member. I appreciate you. God bless you. We had a nice Q&A with Chief Mac either yesterday or the day before. I think it was the day before. You can click on that link. I put it in the chat for you, and you follow the prompts, and you'll be a member. All right, family. You're giving me gifts. Thank you. And anybody that sent a Cash App gift, thank you so much. Anybody that joined our membership group, thank you. We appreciate you. I really need to get out of here and serve my family some dinner. I sliced up all of the fresh bread that I bought. I'm about to put it in the freezer. I might leave some out and I don't know, maybe doctor it up. I might make garlic bread with it. No weapon that's formed against us shall prosper. And no weapon formed against us no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. So many of you have been communicating in the chat. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. No, a lot of people might be mad. They might not like what we say, but they've been saying a lot of things behind their closed doors and in our faces. And they don't have to say it with their mouths. They can say it with their actions, like the people who are classified as the Jays that's stealing the land from people classified as Black in New York. Deed theft. It's been happening for ages, but now people are fighting back, and they're coming to people that's classified as Black, Indigenous people, and saying, "Hey, we're inspecting your property," and the people are like, "No, this is my property." Yeah, we have a permit to come inspect your property, and they steal the land from us. Squatters' rights is a real thing that the United States incorporated, and the colonizer and the Black nobility brought over here, and they utilize that to justify them stealing from us. They can just place themselves on our land and be a squatter and steal our land. But if a person classified as Black go up in their neighborhoods, let's say that they they leave their property or neglect it, even if it's a mansion, and we go over there and we squat, we live in it, and we take possession. It's called adverse possession. We take possession over it. They'll try to put us in jail, shame us, put you all through the news and all that. But a lot of people are getting away with it because that's the law they created, squatters' rights. It's a real legality, something legal in America that these people from abroad brought over here. But now, don't you play the game, because then they get spicy. Thank you for the gift, Brother Tony. They get mad. Uncle alert. Unc's in the house. They say, don't hate the player, hate the game, but let's recreate the law. Freedom now in the comment section. The synagogue of Satan, small hat trying that out here in Manhattan, New York, and Brooklyn. Yep, the synagogue of Satan. I know them that say that they are the JEWS, but are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Some of them are us mixed blood, mixed. They mix with Europeans so they can have proximity to whiteness, and they can have privileges, not rights. No, they talk about white privilege, not white rights, because the people that have rights are the Americans, the indigenous people on the land. But they mix their blood so they can have proximity to the status called whiteness, and they can utilize all of these statutes, codes, and policies that were staged and positioned against us to gain access. Tonight at 7 o'clock is the Zoom for private members to our estate. But it's a new day. Like we've awakened and we're not allowing it. We're going to create our own. Start getting your families together now, Soul Tribe. No matter where you're from, start getting your family members now together. Yeah, we have a meeting tonight at 7. But we're going to do. I'll post the link to the private group. The link is I already created the announcement for that. It's on my YouTube channel. That we're meeting at 7, and I'll send you a Zoom link once you come into that meeting. Well, the private group will be able to talk in private. Freedom now. Thank you so much for sending me the gifts. Let me go ahead and shout you all out, and then I get to feed my children, my grandchildren. Dinner. Thank you. I see the gifts coming in. I appreciate you for the donations. Thank you. Oh man, I'm getting all kind of texts. Let's see. I want to shout you out for sending donations, and I see your text still coming in. Thank you. What'd you say? Hi. Yeah, there's been an infestation in our country. Thank you, Miller, for sending me a gift, a Cash App gift. Kia, was it Benjamin Fullerton that said T has been Benjamin Fulford? Yes, thank you. It was Benjamin Fulford, Brother Kevin, that said T has been gone since 1989. Benjamin Fulford, thank you. Yes, he was a journalist. He is an investigative geopolitical journalist. Benjamin Fulford still puts out very good information. $20,000 for visa visits. That fake ship, slave ship knavery really did come from Notre Dame. It's the exact, did you say, overlay? So thank you, Carly, as well, says Dr. Kia Teach. Thank you. Perlia, thank you so much. You said yes, sis. You sent the Cash App gift. Sister Tiffany says, I love your missionary work. Thank you. Creator bless you. I'm so grateful for you. Brother Lassiter Bay and his lovely wife Sister Harvetta sent a gift, a donation. Thank you so much for the gift. Says donation for, what you say? For the American More. Thank you. Um, Sister Sheila says, this is my monthly gratitude. She gives me a monthly donation. Thank you, Sister Sheila. Brother Robin, or Sister Robin, I can't sure, says, gift to Mama Kia. Appreciate you and love you. Thank you. Uh, Abraham says, great Chief Rod show that you did. Wow, thank you so much. I interviewed Chief Rod Hayes, okay, and pretty often, frequently, as well as I see her the Duke of Tears. Subscribe to Asir Duke of Tears. Subscribe to Orisha Stone, our personal jeweler. Chief Mack and I will be on his show August the 8th at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about wealth and asset protection, how to live in a private. So Orisha Stone, Asir Duke of Tears. Subscribe to the Young Elder. Who else is out there? Subscribe to the official House of Reawakening Minds with Taj Tariq Bey. Chief Rod Hayes doesn't have a show, but he is online. And subscribe to some of the people that give great intel on the foreign currencies. Mark C is one that I've been on his show. Maria Nicole, I've been on her show. Earl sent me a Cash App gift. He says, keep up the good work. Thank you. Angela says, I love you. Send something to me. Johnny says, thank you. He sent the gift, the Cash App gift. Sister Elizabeth says, bless your heart for sharing continuous wisdom. Charles sent me a gift, said, this is payment for you, for your doll's hair. Okay, don't use it all. She does hair too. My granddaughter, she's 10. Thanks for the information. Sister Krista says, thank you for the gift. Creator bless you all with long life, prosperity, and peace for all that you've done. Being here, sharing monetary gifts, sharing the jewels and the gifts that you give through the, super chats. I appreciate you. Robin says, stay well and thanks. Robin sent me a gift. Brother Michael says, this is for your service to others. Okay, he gave a donation. Beautiful Max Ministry, Chief Mac gave me a gift. He gave me several this month. Thank you, Chief Mac. God bless you. We appreciate all your hard work, Chief Mac. Lacey says, thank you for all the enlightenment. You're welcome. Anybody interested in a private trust or a consultation, you can contact Chief Mac at unityinmotion45@yahoo.com. If you want to circumvent or work around sending him an email, you can just go ahead and send a $75 consultation fee to $ALLENJUDAH 47, Allen Judah 47 through his Cash App, or Allen Judah 50, ALLENJUDAH 50. Earl says, keep up the good work. He gave me another gift. And all of you, I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. That's it, family. I love you. Are all hearts and minds clear? All hearts and minds clear. Mel Carmine, Rod Hayes, Young Elder. Thank you, Sister Janine. No, my granddaughter doesn't. She didn't do these braids, but she can braid. She's learning how to braid. She braids very well, actually. When Dr. Kia said, gather together your family. Yes, please gather your family together, please. We've been taught to be individualistic, and that's why one of the reasons so many people are struggling. Even if the government completely closes or collapses, which it's doing right now, and the economy collapses, when we have our own economy and you have your family pulling their resources together and all contributing to the pot, we survive outside of the government. Thank you, Brother Tony, for the gift, for the super sticker. I love you. Yeah. So, family, are all hearts and minds clear? I'll see you in the private group at 7 o'clock. I love you. Take care. To a brighter, freer day. Freedom around the comment section.
She's helping her tribe to realign with wisdom, ancient and new, showing what we all can do.
Woohoo! Thank you, Brother Tony. That's good news. Great news.
So
If you
try
appreciate what we
rising,
do,
hear
put a one in the chat. Put a one in the chat if you appreciate the Soul
vibrations
Tribe.
for one and all. Dr. Kia shows the way to a brighter, freer day. Soul Tribe rising, hear a call, raising vibrations for one and all. Dr. Kia lights the way to a new and brighter day. Mm.
Have a great day, Soul Tribe. I love you. Happy Tuesday. Now, you know, they love to make announcements on Tuesday. So I would not be surprised if something has happened today or going to happen. It is a day that the elite love to make great announcements. So I wonder what we can anticipate on today. Let's look it up later on. I do see some announcements are coming out today. All right. Wow. A lot's happening on today. They love Tuesdays. All right, family. I love you. I'll see you on the other side. Peace.